This episode is also brought to you by Kill Cliff. My friends over at Kill Cliff make the best energy drink you can buy in the market today. Clean energy, none of that crap that they put in Monster or any of those Red Bulls. No sugar, just clean power for all the grind you're going to have to put in today. And if you're not grinding today and you just want to relax, they also have CBD drinks to help you recover from any injuries you may have, any kind of inflammation. Maybe you went a little too hard at the gym. CBD drink will get you right back on track. Go to their website, killcliff.com. Check out all their different flavors. My personal favorite Ignite drink is the Cherry Limeade. And in the CBD category, you have to try the Joe Rogan Special. It's the Flaming Joe Pineapple with Jalapeno. It's not that spicy. You just get a little bit of a kick at the end. It's delicious. Go to killcliff.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com to check out all the options that they have. They have these amazing packages with pre-roll joints, which will have pre-rolls from either side of the strain spectrum, either indica or sativa, and they even have multi-strain collections. Pick up one of their amazing Book of Saints. They currently have 2 volumes, volume 2 being a special Halloween edition. It looks like the Necronomicon. It's amazing. They're currently available in Washington and Oregon and will soon be available in California. Go to saintsjoints.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Thunderking Coffee. Thunder King provides organic, air-roasted coffee straight out of Costa Mesa, California. It's seriously some of the best coffee I've ever had. My personal favorite is the Positive Morning Attitude. I order 2 pounds of this almost every 2 weeks because I just can't get enough. But they also have bottled cold brew. They have their special California Christmas peppermint cold brew out right now. You can order it from their website. So go to thunderkingcoffee.com and check it out. Support small, independent businesses, people. In this episode, I talked to John LaMacchia. You may know John from bands like Candiria or Spylocopa, but now he's got his solo project. His first debut album, Thunderheads, comes out May 20th. He's got features on the album from people like Kelli Scott of Failure, Maro Quintero of Spotlights, Michael from Candiria. They have a song out now called Bled Out, which you can watch the video on YouTube if you haven't heard it yet. It's fantastic. We talk about the writing for the album. We talked about Candiria. We spent a lot of time talking about a deadly accident that he was involved in a few years back and his experience with that. We talked about meditation. We talked about mental health. It was really great. I hope you guys enjoy it. Go pre-order the album from Aqualam Records on their Bandcamp page. Follow John at LaMacchia Music on all the socials. Click down there on subscribe if you can for me, please, and hit the little bell so you get notifications. That way we can get cut through that algorithm. And if you can, check out our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/RRBG to support the podcast so I can keep doing this for free. Cheers. Sugar-free Rebels.
You know, every now and again I have one of these. You know, when I need a little, you know.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to wean off of the caffeine because I hear that it's one of the reasons why I get panic attacks.
Oh, geez.
I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are other reasons I get anxiety, but I hear that caffeine's not good for it, and so I'm trying to wean off a little bit. I'm trying to avoid consuming so much. I mean, I'm Cuban, dude, so ever since I was like 4, my family's been feeding me coffee with milk and all that nonsense. So yep. It's a hard thing to get off of. But anyway.
Right.
I mean, it's LaMacchia, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm being joined today by John LaMacchia. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I mean, you are a legend of sorts.
I appreciate that. I find it funny when me and the Candiria guys have a kind of running joke when people say, like, use the word legendary, and I don't mean to, like, I'm so, like, it's great when people but we kind of have a joke about like, like we're like, Bigfoot's legendary. He's out there. He's out there somewhere. He hasn't showered in a while. Nobody understands him or loves him.
That sounds like me, dude.
So it's great to be it's great to be considered as such, but it's also like I always chuckle a little bit because me and these guys have a long running joke with that term. But thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate the kind words. I really do.
Yeah, no problem. It's funny. I also have a weird association with the word. I try not to use it often because for me, I'm a wrestling fan, and the WWE has made it a thing where if you're old, then you're a WWE legend. You're no longer a superstar.
Right.
So I try not to use it because I don't want people to think I'm calling them old.
Right. Yeah, I'm grateful that in the music industry it is pretty much the same thing, but not nearly as, you know what I mean? It's not as black and white.
Sure.
But it's great to be considered that anyway, because I mean, damn, we were just like, Candiria was just a bunch of guys, hardcore guys, and like music fans that wanted to write all kinds of crazy music, so to have any kind of notoriety in this industry is definitely a thing to be happy and proud about.
Absolutely. So for those that are watching and listening and not aware, you were in Candiria, you were Spylacopa as well, and now you got your solo project, your first solo project, which is just LaMacchia, right?
LaMacchia.
And the album is called, I have it right there, Thunderheads. Right. I heard the first track, man, and it's a beautiful song. A little bit of a departure for fans of Candiria that haven't heard it. I don't think it's that much of a departure from Spylacopa. Like this, Spylacopa is a lot more experimental and it goes up and down. But there are some Spylacopa songs that kind of have that vibe. But I likened it more to like Failure, which you have Kelli Scott is on it. So it has that Failure vibe, a little bit of Radiohead vibe. That kind of. So what got you to kind of lean into that direction as opposed to something heavier or hardcore that you're known from?
Well, I've always really written songs, throughout my whole life. Candiria, my time with Candiria was really purely because I just loved how original and different the band was. Prior to playing in Candiria, I guess I could say I was a fan. I mean, we definitely, they were like hometown heroes, even though for the short amount of time they existed before I joined the band. In that short time period of like 95 to 97, they made an impact on all the musicians in Brooklyn and New York City. So when I joined the band, it really was where I was coming from. The kind of music I was playing was definitely more closer to what is on this record, and what is really the heart and soul of kind of what I do is really just writing, like it's songwriting. That's really basically it. It's metallic, but it's doomy and dreary and maybe like, even more like on the alternative side, but that's really truly where that's where my soul is. That's always been where my soul is. All right.
That's good to hear. I mean, so it's odd. Then the question is, what took so long for you to start doing something solo like this?
I guess, to be honest with you, this was just going to be another Spylacopa record. That's really this is really how it started out. And, if you didn't know this, Spylacopa has been really just me for the past, I'd say, for a very long time, it's been just me, even though the full length that came out some years ago, Parallels, had Julie Christmas and Jeff Kashid of ISIS on it. Those songs were recorded in 2007 and 2006 or something like that. And it was just released later on simply because a series of circumstances just, happened throughout the years, and it just happened that way. But that said, this was going to be just another Spylacopa record, and it was a friend of mine who suggested that I kind of rebrand and sort of, think about cutting through the noise of like Spylacopa, Candiria, what is this, and just starting fresh and doing something new. And I do feel that although it is, still me writing the music and it's coming through me, it's definitely a singular vision. I do feel that there's a change in the attitude and sort of the production value. I think is definitely better than anything I've ever done before. But what took me so long as far as the name goes, I guess I just was never, not that I didn't like my name or anything, but I guess I was never confident enough to sort of use my name and just claim something as my own. But I am now, and I'm really, really happy in this position that I'm in. And I'm extremely grateful to all the people that are supporting me, like my bandmates, the record label, my manager, Chris Enriquez, who has been unbelievable and just incredible.
Chris is the homie, man.
He's great. He's been great. But I really am grateful for all the support I'm getting and all of the faith that people, they're like putting their faith in me because they believe in me. And it's really something to be appreciative and grateful for. But it also gives me the confidence to sort of lead. And it's really like a long time coming, but I'm happy to do it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I was just in New York actually a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and went out there to do a podcast with the Stoke the Fire guys. And yeah, cool, and Chris was out there, and he ended up, after the show, he was like, "Come with me, we're going to show you some spots."
Right.
And it was a fun time. He took me to a couple iconic locations, like the American Graffiti Building and Niagara, and he ended up buying me a shot of whiskey at the Niagara, and I ended up walking right outside the door and puking it out because I hadn't eaten dinner.
Oh, God.
And it wasn't like I was wasted or anything. It was like the second I took it, I felt it burning inside. I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten. And then all of a sudden just, bah. And he was like, that's the most punk rock thing I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, I guess.
The perfect place to do it. You're at Niagara, man. That's it.
Yeah.
That's great, man. That's hysterical. I was really hoping to make that, but I wasn't able to do it. I think I was away, and I just couldn't get back in time. Jesse is another. I mean, he's incredible, man. And I actually sent him the record, and he had some really wonderful things to say about it because he's been a supporter of Candiria for many, many years, and he was one of the people that I had in mind. Like, we sent the record around to some key people. We wanted to get input and we wanted to get some feedback, and he had some really, really wonderful things to say and encouraging things to say. So I really do appreciate that dude so much.
That's awesome, man. I mean, maybe for the follow up, he'll show up and do a guest spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that the plan now moving forward? Do you want to do more of these, LaMacchia records?
I mean, this is it, really. Me and Mike always say it. We've said it throughout the years. Never say never with Candiria because something is always brewing. We have so much history that, Candiria just really could just continue to put out the older records in different formats. Like, most of the albums have not been released on vinyl yet. So I'm always working on something with Candiria. It's just whether or not the band is actually a functioning unit. And right now it seems pretty impossible for us to do anything. We get asked to do stuff all the time, but the last drummer we had, Dan, he has 2 kids. He has a full-time job. Julio, my guitar player, he had a kid. It's just crazy. It's like there's babies everywhere. Carly's working full-time. He's doing his own thing. And so for now, I mean, this is it. LaMacchia is going to be my thing. And I'm so happy doing this. I'm so happy with the band that I have right now. I have just a great group of players that are so psyched to play the music, and they're just down. They're dedicated. They're showing up. It amazes me. People show up. I'm like, yo, we're going to rehearse Sunday. And everybody's like, yeah. I'm like, I can't even believe it. But I'm just pumped. I guess, the whole pandemic thing really put things in perspective of just how hard it is to do this when, things are the way they are in the world now. Money is, everything is getting harder and harder just to get by. People lost so much work. I mean, and we have so much making up to do. But for some reason, I guess another thing that, got put into perspective is how important it is to do what you love to do. And it shows because these musicians that I play with show up and they're so down to do this. And I couldn't be happier.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I know you said Chris is doing drums, I believe.
Enriquez was for a moment. Now
okay.
it's this guy, Jeff Gensterblom. He plays in a band called Savak, and he plays in another band called The Twin. And he is a fantastic player, and he's a sweetheart of a guy. And he comes to the rehearsals, and he brings like sweets and cookies and stuff. And it's like, man, how much you can't ask for much more than that. He's a great guy. And like I said, he's a hell of a player. So we're really, really lucky to have him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because Chris just launched his solo project, so I was like, this is he's going to be a busy boy, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very incestuous scene, it really is. I recorded most of Chris's album for him, and I shot his first and directed his first video for him. So it's a very incestuous sort of scene where everybody's kind of like, I don't know, everybody's involved in some way. And he was actually the person that suggested Jeff come and try out for the band. And it was an easy, like the minute he walked in the room and played one song, I was like, well, you got the job, man. So it was really easy to make that happen.
Yeah, it's interesting that northeast area is very, like you said, incestuous like that. I don't like that word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you look at bands like Cave In and Converge and all that. Like they all work together and everybody's all, yeah.
It might as well just be one band where they play just like all of the Converge. They can play like Cave In songs, Old Man Gloom songs, Converge songs, just like one big thing. But yeah, it is great to have like your own sort of ecosystem now, that you have like a community of musicians and people that sort of are just sort of pushing your own sort of culture. You know what I mean? I think that's like a big thing right now that can really be helpful as far as like building your brand and sort of helping build like your audience, so to speak.
Sure, yeah. It's something that's super important, and something that I feel is kind of lacking in Los Angeles, because I'm out here, and maybe it's just because I'm a little disconnected from the actual creative scene, because I'm not doing it anymore, but it just feels a little more disconnected, a little more cutthroat out here. Like people aren't really working together as opposed to over there where you're building this massive community. Right. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, it definitely is really, really... it's a healthy scene here, man. It really is. And even though it branches off into different styles and sounds and whatnot, we still all kind of like stay connected. We still all support each other. And we really, I guess it's like you really have to count your blessings when you do have a situation like that. And when you don't, and you realize that it's an important thing that's missing in your community, then it's maybe, it's a thing to consider to kind of work on, to take steps to help build one. So I hope something does start to happen there for you guys on the West Coast.
It's so odd to me specifically. I was born in Jersey. I'm from that area, and the reputation used to be that New Yorkers, New Jersey, we have attitudes.
Right,
there's an edge. Everybody's angry, everybody's flipping each other off, and the West Coast is more everybody's high, everybody's like, oh, this is cool vibes, bro. But it's the opposite. It's really the opposite. Everybody that's out here trying to make a living, they just want to step on you on the way up, and whereas in New York, everybody's more of a family, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wonder what that is. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. Who knows why? But I definitely, I love both. I love both LA and New York, but I don't think I could live in LA. I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's part of it. It's part of the reason why I love New York City so much. It's a really crazy place to live. It's really not for everyone, but if you are here and you do make this your home, it can be like a small town. It really can be like a small town. It can have a small town vibe. And I think that's the thing that I'm still in love with. I'm still in love with the idea that I have this sort of family, this community of people that when I go out to a show or when I play a show, they show up. Or whenever I go to a show and I'm supporting someone else, I know a lot of people there, So there's that part of it that just I think I couldn't live without that.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And I felt it immediately when I got there for the show, the podcast, the Stoke the Fire. You know, when I walked into that building and I saw Chris and I saw Jesse, and I was just like, oh, it felt like home. It wasn't like a weird out of town vibe. You know, it just felt like, oh, I'm here now.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to bring something up that perhaps if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. I just wanted to bring it up because I've experienced something very similar. But I was watching a documentary on Candiria, and you talk about an accident that you guys had. Right. And I myself had a very devastating, you know, where I was proclaimed dead.
Wow.
That kind of, you know, head-on collision, 60 miles an hour. Like,
oh, my God.
Yeah.
So.
And I experienced some really wild things internally. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that just to see, you know, I know you've mentioned it before. You don't have to, you know, break down the actual accident, but I'm more interested in the after effects. You know, was there a moment where you were unconscious, and if so, like, did you see anything? Did you experience anything? Because, you know, you hear the light at the end of the tunnel thing. I didn't see that, but did you see anything?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was one that was. You know, when we got hit, I lost consciousness immediately. And I don't remember. I'm one of the fortunate ones that didn't actually experience the accident to the fullest extent. I was laying down with my head toward the back of the van. Thankfully, we had a trailer. I wouldn't even be here. But when we were hit, I immediately lost consciousness because I must have hit my head immediately. And then we jackknifed and flipped and went back into the semi truck and got hit again, and we started flipping, and I was thankfully unconscious for all of that, whereas the rest of the guys in the band and our tour manager were not. But I have one snapshot in my head where I'm like against the ceiling of the van, and I'm just like, you know, I'm just planted there, and I'm seeing the van from that perspective, and then I don't remember anything. And then I wake up on the highway, and I swear to God, it was like I was born again. It was like the light was so bright, and it was very peaceful. I wasn't in any pain. Everything was very warm. And there was a man who was trying to help me. He was putting a jacket, like, I don't remember this, but I was told he put a jacket under my head, and he was talking to me, and he was trying to just comfort me. But all I remember is that light, that bright light, like a yellow light, like seeing a sunset, or seeing like the sun in your eyes, but it didn't burn your eyes. Mm-hmm. So that's what I remember seeing. And I could definitely see why people mention a light at the end of a tunnel or some kind of light that they see. Because after that, I wound up, I blacked out. And then the next time I was up, the doctors were waking me up, like smacking me in the face and getting me up, because they had to give me a catheter, and they also had to put a tube up my nose and down my throat.
That was at the hospital, or
yeah, that was at the hospital. You have to be conscious for that, because you have to help them, like, you know. But yeah, it was that's definitely something that I saw, and that is definitely notable. I'll never forget that. So, I mean, when did this happen to you? How long ago was this?
2002.
Wow, same.
Wow. Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
2002. It was just on my way to work, and my buddy wanted to borrow my car because he wanted to take a girl out on a date who was in the car. I let him drive. It was him and his girl in the front seat, and I was in the back. I was like, just drop me off at work, take my car, take her on a date. It's cool. And then we had our accident, and my seat ripped off. The back seat completely ripped off, and I smashed into his girl.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she broke her thigh bone, I don't know what the actual science term of that bone is, but the thigh bone. And a bunch of other vertebrae and stuff too. And then I hit her, and then I bounced back out and smashed against the back window. Wow. And when I woke up a couple times during the accident. Like I I remember seeing the car coming at us, passing out, then opening my eyes, and we were spinning, and then I passed out again. And then I woke up to trying to get out of the car, but I couldn't because my collarbone had broken and was stabbing me in the jaw. So I couldn't turn my head. I was like trying to turn my head. And I remember looking out the window and seeing a dude running at the car and ripping the door out like a superhero. Like, wow. That's like I think that's where superheroes come from. Somebody had some kind of similar experience. They saw that. Yeah. And then I woke up in the helicopter to paddles.
Oh my God. Jesus.
So yeah. So the reason I asked is because I saw some like geometric shapes, which kind of like I had no explanation for, and then dedicated the following like 2 to 3 years to figuring that out. Like I'm like, what was that? And I found out what it was. It's fine. Okay.
Well, you want to elaborate?
I ended up tattooing it on my arm. That was like the first tattoo I ever got was that circle right there.
Wow.
And I discovered that it's old Egyptian geometry called sacred geometry. It was the seed of life.
Wow.
And that's why I put the seed and then I grew a tree out of it just to be, I don't know, a hippie. But yeah, it kind of, when you read about the sacred geometry thing, it explains that that's how creation was. It's just all math and numbers, and it starts off as a dot, then it's 2 dots, then it kind of just circles out from there. Wow. And it was interesting to me, and I never went into the religious route with it, because a lot of people when they have similar experiences, they Jesus saved me or God saved me. Like I didn't ever see a person or anything like that. I never really went the faith route. I went more into the science route. Like, what was that?
Right. Well, Eddie, I have to tell you, man, me and you have a lot of similarities in this, because I too got this tattooed years later. It's the accident. It's really the accident date. People think it's something else.
It's Satan, man.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that was going to happen, and I love the idea of that too. But it happened September 9th, and it happened at 9 a.m. So the 9th day of the month, and the 9th hour of that day. That's when the accident happened. So several years later, whenever, I forget when exactly I decided to do it. It was some years after the accident. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this, because it was just such a crazy experience that changed the course of my life, changed the course of like Candiria's life. And it's interesting, man, because what happened to me was I had these crazy experiences after the accident. I was having these dizzy spells because I suffered from like a bruised brain. That was part of one of the injuries, global hematoma or something like that. I forget what it's called, global, something like that. Anyways, like my brain was bruised, and I was having these dizzy spells, and they lasted up until a few years ago. I haven't had a dizzy spell. I haven't woken up with a dizzy spell in the last few years, but up until recently, I would have them occasionally. After the accident, I was having them all the time. They were so bad that I couldn't. If I leaned up and had a dizzy spell, it was like I had to hold on to something, because it was just like the whole world was just going like this. It was nuts. But another thing that wound up happening to me was I was having these not visions. They weren't visions. They were like dreams but I wasn't fully asleep. They were like these I don't know what you would call it, but I think it had something to do with the traumatic experience. Well, actually, I found out what it had to do with, and I'll give you an example what happened. Like I had this one sort of waking dream where I was laying in bed, and beyond my door that was locked, I lived in a railroad apartment, so I had my own entrance. Beyond the door was so it was knocking at the door, some knocking, and I just ignored it at first, and then the knocking got harder and harder and harder, and the more I heard the knocking, the more I imagined what was on the other side, and it was like this gruesome fucking female figure that was just trying to get in and like would not stop. And it was I was gonna just sit there and listen to this pounding on this door forever, or I was gonna open it. But that was this vision I had, and I was kind of like, I had like, it was so crazy that I had this, like, it was almost like a night terror, but I was like frozen, and it was like my own thoughts doing it. And it got so bad that I actually, I went to see a therapist about it. I had to go see a therapist about it. And they explained something to me, and it was this wild shit, man. Because what wound up happening was, I didn't realize this, and it was so fucked up when she said this, because I was like, that's it. I went to see, shortly after the accident happened, 2 weeks later, the girl I was with at the time wanted to go see the movie The Ring, okay? Which was, when I went to fucking sit, like, we sat down and the movie started, and I'm usually good with horror movies, but the minute the first horror scene happened, I was like shook by it. And I was like, wait, maybe I should fucking not watch this. Maybe this isn't a good time. And I watched the whole movie, and I didn't think anything about it. These things started happening to me where I would see these really horrific things. And then I went to see a therapist, and I went to see someone, you know, through the insurance, you know, with them knowing about what happened to me. And I was explaining, I was like, I'm seeing these things, I'm seeing these horrible visions, and it's like, it's so fucking it's terrifying me, you know? And she said, well, you know, you were in this accident and you experienced this intense physical trauma, but you remember nothing of the actual accident itself. She goes, obviously your brain is trying to sort of find some horrific things, this thing that you can look at and relate it to this like physical pain that you're experiencing, and that you did experience. And as soon as she said it, I was like, that's it. That's exactly what this is. My fucking mind just, there's nothing to like, there's no memory of like, why is my arm broken? Why is my rib, my collarbone, my scapula, all of this was broken, but I had nothing to connect it to. And my brain was trying to make sense of shit, I guess. Anyway, it got better after that, because I knew it. I knew it was happening. And I just, it's crazy how science works. It's crazy how the mind works. It's crazy how incredible it is to have a team of doctors, and they can just kind of help you manage all aspects of something like that, you know? So wild stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, they held me in at the hospital for a bit after, cause they also found, they found something in my brain on the scans. They saw like a black area.
Whoa.
And they were like, we gotta have to keep you here for observation. But then it went away.
Wow.
But I'm just like, that's weird.
Fucking crazy.
That's a little weird. But that makes sense to me too. You know, that your brain's trying to find some way to connect it to anything, and maybe that is the case with me too. With, you know, what I saw and what kind of connections I made afterwards with, you know, the sacred geometry, and trying to figure out, you know, the creation of life and what's the meaning of it all, and why am I still here, and all that stuff. Did you find that after, you know, maybe years later, that you discovered something, like, did you start doing something new? Did you start doing art? Because I started doing music after the accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, no, it didn't affect me in that way. But what I do remember is that I started to sort of think that this was sort of my life. This is it. This is my story, is accidents. Because this isn't the first accident I've been in. I've been in several throughout the years. And there was like there was like this numbers thing that was happening. So my first time that I ever broke a bone or had any kind of like accident was when I was 5 years old, and my sister Gina took me on like a joyride on a bicycle, and we were kids, and she's swerving, and my leg gets caught in the spokes, and the bike stops, and she's just pounding on the pedal and breaks my leg. Okay, so I'm 5. I don't even remember. I didn't feel anything. I was so young. Whatever, you know, I broke my leg. That's the first time. Then 10 years later, I'm 15 years old. I'm on a skateboard, skating through an avenue. It's raining, and this woman goes through a red light and hits me. And it's my first real accident. I'm unconscious. I spent 10 days in the hospital. I had surgeries on my leg. You know, there's another one. It's 10 years. Then 8 years later, I was in a head-on collision like yourself on Christmas Day.
And
Yeah, it was on Christmas. It was on Christmas, and I was in a head-on collision. I broke my femur bone. It was probably the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And when you mentioned somebody coming over and ripping open off the car door, I had the fire department had to come and do something similar, and then they pulled me out, and it was probably the most painful experience of my life. I mean, I was screaming so like loud. It was just like, I wasn't even trying to scream. It was just like this thing was just happening because of the amount of pain. And I was just kept, like passing out. But then 6 years later, that's when is it 6 years later? 96? Yeah. 6 years later, 2002, that's when the Candiria accident happened. So I'm like, is this the way I'm going to die? Is the next accident going to be 4 years and then 2 years, then 1 year, and then I die? So I started like thinking this, and it was like this fucking idea in my head that I couldn't get out of my head. And then I don't know how many years later, well, whatever, the 4 years passed, nothing happened. The 6 years passed, nothing happened, but I still always kept that in my mind. And then someone who I'm very, very close to said to me, just because you have this history, don't make that your life. It doesn't define you just because these future things. Yeah, you don't have to, don't make it your story. Don't make it your story, because that's just an unhealthy way to live your life. It's negative, and it's an unhealthy way to think about things. So after that conversation and realizing like, man, this is such a fucking shitty thing to do to myself. Yeah. Haven't I been through enough? And now here I am. I'm like just waiting for this horrible thing to happen to me. So I kind of let go of that. And although that doesn't mean that my chances of something happening hasn't changed, but at least I don't like, I'm not torturing myself in the meantime, with these thoughts. So that's something I started doing that was very unhealthy after the accident. But I don't do that any longer.
That's good, man. Yeah, because there's also, one of the things that I learned or discovered after was that ability to make things happen. Like I know that sounds cheesy, The Secret and Manifest Destiny and all that stuff, but it's true. It's definitely true. If you put your mind to something, you'll make it happen. And it goes both ways. If it's positive, like I'm going to make this album, you'll make it. You'll make the album. But also if your brain is like, I'm going to die in 4 years. Right. Something, you might manifest something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's definitely better to not do that because you may just manifest it. I agree.
And the numerology thing too, like I know you said you got the 999 and, there was like a number of time that, did you get obsessed with like numerology and reading on like the significance of numbers? Did you start seeing 1111 everywhere?
Well, I've always been fascinated with the number 9, regardless of when this accident happened. But this accident, I guess, just made it more like, it's just a number that I feel is, it's just such an organic number, the way that like, no matter how many times you multiply it, no matter what you do, you can turn it into just 9. You go back to that number. It's pretty amazing in that regard. So just as like the way it behaves in the universe and in nature, it's just like a beautiful thing to me. Other than that, like, I do love math. I love numerology. I love all things, to do. Not that I'm some kind of mathematician or anything like that, but when I think about music, I love math and music. I love the idea of math in nature and in the universe and in the world. I think it's a fascinating, incredibly powerful thing that exists all around us. And I definitely do pay attention to numbers when they come up. I do. I'm definitely the type of person that I'm sensitive to it, I would say, like yourself, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I love about progressive metal or, bands like Dillinger or anything that plays with time signatures. I'm really attracted to that type of music just because I sit there and I'm like counting in my head, and then I start looking at, and when they switch it up on me, I start laughing. Like that's my reaction. It's just like, look at what they did. Yeah. So, it's weird that's, and like I said, for me, I discovered that I should make music after the accident. So there's this weird esoteric kind of spiritual thing that I connect music and numbers and all of that to. So for you, is there do you dive into that at all in terms of discovering, like, you know, I said that there's no religious aspect to what I do, but do you find yourself, you know, reading anything like Buddhism or reincarnation or any of that kind of stuff? Did any of that trigger after your experience?
You know, not particularly. I'm not I've never had any type of spiritual, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in the possibility of a greater force that, you know, somehow, some way we were created by some force.
Something's keeping you here after so many accidents.
Of course, too, that as well. I believe in that. I just don't specifically subscribe to any particular religion. However, as of late, I have been participating in a monthly or semi-monthly ritual, like a circle. I won't get too deep into it because it's not really, I'm just a participant. I just show up and I get to enjoy the sort of the benefits, which are, you know, we meditate on the universe. We meditate on the aspects of nature, and obviously numerology has a lot to do with that. And it's the closest thing I've ever had to any kind of religion. It really is. And I'm really grateful that I'm included. It's a very small circle of people that do it. And every one of them, I want to be at every single one of them when they happen. I can't get to every one of them because of my schedule. But when I am with these folks that do this thing, and I'm not going to go into details about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's really gratifying. It's really something that I hold, like it's really important to me. And it's funny that it's happening now in my life after all of these years, but it makes perfect sense. Like this idea of religion or spirituality makes more sense to me than anything I've ever experienced. You know, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I am so far removed from that, like that idea. And that's not to say that I don't prescribe to some of the teachings, some of the, you know, but
be nice and, you know,
yeah,
don't kill people. And
right. But as an organization, as an entity, the Roman Catholic Church is not something I really can get down with any longer. And I don't know how people really can, and that's their thing, not mine. But you know, I don't want to judge, but what I know is enough for me to know that it's not for me. That's really all I can say.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I mean, Jersey, I was in a private school. I was in St. Anne's, and a couple, you know, that was my upbringing was Catholic. And then as I got older, I was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think meditation is one of the most important things, and people give it this weird stigma of like, oh, it's religious or it's spiritual or it's, you know, hippy dippy, whatever. It's like, you don't have to connect it to that. I mean, the way I try to explain it to most people, that meditation is really the only time your brain gets to rest. Because, you know, when you go to bed at night, like imagine working out at the gym, doing bicep curls for your whole life. Right. And then without resting, your arm would cramp up and atrophy, and you couldn't use your arm. So that's what your brain's doing, because when you go to bed, your body rests, but your brain is going. You're dreaming. You're thinking of things. Sure. And the only moment it gets to stop, rest, and heal and grow as a muscle, if you want to call it that, is when you're meditating, is when you're giving it that moment of peace. So I think it's really, really important, and it should be part of everyday life, like brushing your teeth and going to bed. It should be.
Yeah, if you can get it in, if you can do it, and you have the time and you have the spare time, even a 5 to 10 minute meditation is like a really healthy thing to incorporate in your life. It's not easy to shut your brain down or quiet your brain down. You're not shutting anything down, but it's not easy to quiet your brain. But if you can practice it, and you can get used to it, and you can get into a rhythm, and you can sort of get comfortable with it, it's really, really It's really healthy. It's really helpful too.
Yeah. Now, to kind of lean it, you know, steer it back into music, do you find that now that you're doing this meditation, has it helped with your writing, your creativity, like the sparking of new music?
Yeah, actually, because we actually do incorporate music here and there in this, and it's taken me into directions that I've explored in the past, but that I haven't sort of meddled with, so to speak, until recently. And it's great to use music as a sort of supplement and not use it as like, oh, this is the thing you're here for. It's supplemental in a situation like that, because the more important thing is the ritual itself or the meditation itself. And the music is just plays a supporting role. So in that way, it definitely has, most certainly has.
That's cool. Yeah. Now with the solo album, the song that's out now has a particular vibe. Is that vibe kind of what we can expect from the rest of the album, or do you kind of, because you listen to Candiria, it's very experimental. There's songs that range from death metal to hip hop to jazz to whatever. So do you kind of take that approach to with this new album, or is it kind of like the same consistent vibe with that single that's out?
Well, that's actually one of the things that I wanted to kind of take with me from Candiria was this diversity, and although the spectrum of sound is a little like, if Candiria is like this and it's the whole gamut from jazz to ambient music, what I'm doing with LaMacchia is it's a little bit more, it's a little less broad, but it ranges from like electronic music in the vein of like Radiohead or like Massive Attack, and then there's some like more mellow acoustic dark rock stuff like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Then there's like some stuff like more like Failure or Autolux. There's a range. It's like rock music, some acoustic stuff, and some like deep like electronic heavy kind of stuff like Massive Attack or Lorne. Yeah, I did want the experience to be similar to a Candiria album. Like when someone listens to a Candiria album, they hear this, it's more like an experience or journey, and not just like, this is the next song, this is the next song. It's like this movement, and it works for me. And so far the feedback I've been getting from it, people are kind of into it, and they feel like there's a consistency to it, even though the sounds may change. There's something about it that seems to work. I hope the experience for people that hear it feel the same way,
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm stoked to hear the rest of the album. I have to pre-order the vinyl because I'm a vinyl collector now, apparently.
Oh, awesome, man. Awesome.
So it seems like you're going on, or you're playing a show with Shiner and Spotlights. Are you getting ready for a tour anytime soon?
We did play that show with Spotlights and Shiner. That was the first gig we played. This Sunday, we're playing at Union Pool in Brooklyn with band. I love that place. A band called Frail. It's actually all the bands that are performing are Aqualam Records, and Aqualam has been they're such a great label. There's such great people. I've never worked so closely with a label before. It's like, I can't even believe how hard these guys work. It's incredible. So it's sort of like an Aqualam Presents event on Easter Sunday. And it's Frail, my band LaMacchia, a band called Burning Tongue, and another artist named Zeb Gould, who is a fantastic solo artist. He's really incredibly talented. So are all the other bands, but him in particular, it's more like in my wheelhouse, Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to seeing his show and seeing the rest of the bands, of course. But it's going to be a great night. We're doing like an Easter egg hunt with like lots of really cool prizes. My buddy Chris Santos, who's a celebrity chef, he was kind enough to donate through the Tao Hospitality to donate a $150 gift certificate to any Tao restaurant, including Beauty in Essex or Lavo, New York City, or any Tao restaurant. Like, we have all kinds of stuff like that. Another restaurant called Mena did another gift certificate. We have like so many cool sponsors for the show. So if you come out, there's going to be an egg hunt. And well, this may come out after Sunday. It probably will come out after
It
Sunday.
might come out after Sunday.
Okay, so anyway, you missed the show. You missed the
great show. It was so good.
We had a great time. I won all the prizes.
Are you planning a tour? And if you are, like, what would be your ideal package for a tour like that?
Well, we are planning a tour, and it's actually going to be in August. It's not really a tour. This one thing that we're planning right now in early August, is really just like an extended weekend, and it'll be LaMacchia and Light Tower, Chris Enrique's band, and then I think for each city we perform in, we're going to have a different band to play with. So we're going to do a date. Right now we have locked in. We have August 5th in Long Island. I believe it's Amityville Music Hall. And then we're going to be in Philly we're going to be in, oh God. The only thing we have locked down so far is Long Island on August 5th and in Philly at Ortlieb's on August 7th. And we're not sure who the rest of the bands are going to be on the bill yet. But we're also going to be in Brooklyn on the 4th. And then the 6th, we're supposed to go down to Baltimore. So that's the plan. And then after that, we're going to be, there's going to be stuff happening in June and July, but that's like one thing that's being planned.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. One thing I wanted to ask you, I kind of like skipped over it with my notes, but, a while back when Spylacopa first debuted, you had Greg from Dillinger on as kind of like a main vocalist. There was other guest vocalists in the album as well. Right. But what kind of I never look into those type of things. I'm not the type to just read about what happens with band members or dive too deep into it. Sure. So what happened to that situation? To like the follow-up album didn't have Greg. Like, was that always the plan, or did you want to have Greg and then something didn't work out?
Well, no, it actually was totally the plan. The original plan, the way I remember it, and if you ask Greg, he might remember it differently because this was quite some time ago. Yeah. But we wrote a bunch of songs and recorded a bunch of songs, and that were never fully mixed. But we did mix the first initial EP that did come out. The initial Spylacopa EP came out. And then our plan was 6 months later, directly after that release, we were going to put in the second one out. But Greg started getting really busy with Dillinger Escape Plan. Things started picking up for me. I started working with Julie Christmas on her solo record and started working on other things. So it just never happened. And then I think Greg sort of just bowed out, like, politely was like, nah, I'm good, dude. And then he went on to do whatever, his he had, of course, an incredible run with Dillinger and then the Black Queen and all of the stuff he did. And then throughout all those years, we just never got to put out the rest of this music, which was why I released in 2015, I put out the Parallels album, but I did all the vocals myself because whatever vocals he had recorded, I couldn't use at that point. Right, and at that point, I didn't want to use them because, Greg wasn't a part of the project anymore. He had walked away from it, and I didn't want to, keep pushing.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah. So I wound up recording vocals myself and having a friend of mine, Sabrina Ellie, recorded some vocals. Julie Christmas did vocals for 2 songs, and we wound up with a record. And I'm proud of it. I'm really glad I did that because it kind of put a period at the end of that sentence for me. It was like, all right, now I can kind of work on other stuff. And then I continued to put out Spylacopa records with just really by myself. And now it's LaMacchia.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you, man. Like I said, if the single that's out now is any indication, I'm really stoked for the record. And I'm hoping that you come out to the West Coast.
That is the plan.
So hopefully I can catch that. And for people that are watching this with hopes of like news of Candiria reunions and whatnot, like you heard the man, there's families are happening, which is what happens at this age group.
Sure.
That's where my band situation kind of took a dive too, because everybody started having kids and moving to different areas for job opportunities, and it's because it's not easy to be in a band. It's not as luxurious as it seems.
No.
People don't make money, so
no, you don't.
You got to go make a living somewhere, and that happens. But Never, like you said, never say never. You see these reunion shows happening now at like Furnace Fest, and these bands coming back together. So I'm pretty sure I'll get a chance. As I never got to see Candiria live, so I feel confident in knowing that maybe in a few years that'll be a thing.
Yeah, hopefully, man. You never know. I mean, if there's one thing that we can always count on is the fact that when we do get together, it's so much fun and we have a blast, and it's like old times, and we're like kids, we're like these young guys all over again. And it's just nothing but jokes and laughing and playing fun music that's full of energy. So it's possible, man. You never know.
Yeah, there's no beef, which is good, because that's the case with a lot of these reunions that, somebody starts hating each other, and then they have to there's a lot of money on the line, so let's just tolerate each other to get this reunion.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
But that's exciting, man. I mean, I'm happy for you, and you got so much going on. Like you said, you were working, you're directing videos. The album, the vinyl for the new solo, it has a 100-page art book. Did you do all the art?
Well, most of it, yeah. It's filled with drawings, some of my photography, a lot of my photography actually. Sort of like some I don't know. It's a lot of it is that, and then it's like some text, some writings. There's obviously lyrics, and it's like a companion piece to the album. And the cool thing we're going to do is we're going to put in like QR codes that can take you to like different landing pages that will offer additional music, and it'll offer like access to this and that, and like all kinds of weird fun shit. So it's something I've never done before, and it's something that Aqualam has been doing for a long time now. And it seems to me that like a lot of other record labels, like I noticed like Sargent House is putting out books now, and they're kind of like, I think Aqualam was kind of like at the front line of this kind of putting out like books for every album. Mm-hmm. And now, it seems a lot of labels are kind of following suit, because it's a kind of an uncharted sort of uncharted, at least in recent history. And, it's a very cool way to kind of like put out music and have people experience it, because if you have it's all it is a digital download, then why not offer something more, something more substantial than just like a CD with a booklet? Why not offer something more visually, or something more with the way you can be so creative with like the use of like QR codes that access the web? It's like you're getting this whole other experience that is really, really cool.
Have you considered, since you do so much photography and art and whatnot, have you considered doing a show, like a gallery show?
Well, that actually is something that we're going to plan to do as well a little bit later in the year. I want to do an exhibit that's like a full-on, pretty much an exhibit that showcases all of the art, all of the video, all of the music in one place in this, that this album, like, that all the things that exist within this world that has been created. And that's something that I plan on doing in the fall, simply because there's so much that is still happening. There's just a lot that's happening, and we have to get some shows under our belt before I go ahead and start working on an exhibit. But it's something that I'm determined to make it happen, and we have some really cool stuff planned. So I'm glad you asked, because the answer is definitely yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there also like for your live shows? I mean, obviously budget is a thing, but is it your vision to kind of have this kind of visual production with the live shows that can kind of present all of it together? Lots of projectors and lights and whatnot.
That is the goal. Right now, it's just getting up on stage and rocking the hell out, because we are the opening act mostly. Actually, this show we're playing, we are main support, but we haven't had the opportunity. I haven't had the opportunity to do something that is really like grandiose or over the top, but that is definitely the plan. The plan is to definitely incorporate all different types of media and visual aspects and kind of like performance art. I want to do something really, really fun. And even the videos that we're making, we're just trying to be as creative as humanly possible, and not for the sake of being creative, but because, Aqualam, these guys come from design. They're both musicians. They're both from the artwork. They come from the design world. And it just makes sense to do stuff that is substantial and not just like, you know, a lyric video. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But we want to dig into some really, intense like animation, and like we're working with like really cool directors and people that really know their shit. And so it's been a fun ride, and it's just going to get wilder as we go.
Hell yeah, man. Hell. That's a great way to end it here. So for everybody that's watching and listening, Thunderheads comes out May 20th. That's when the digital album comes out. The record will be out June 1st. Right. Where can people pre-order it and start following and getting on board with this?
They can go to aqualam.org. Aqua, lamb, one word. .org, and the album is up there for pre-sale on vinyl in 2 limited edition colors. You can pick up the book there. You can pick up the book and the vinyl, or the CD and the book. There's all kinds of combinations of ways you can pick it up. And yeah, I would go there. I would go aqualam.org. Follow me at LaMacchia Music, pretty much across all social media, but mainly Instagram and Facebook these days. I'm also on TikTok. I'm starting.
Oh.
You know, I'm trying.
Dances? You're doing dancing? What's going on?
I have my band members doing dance steps. I just filmed
it. Nice.
That's the key.
That's the key. Yeah, don't. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I gotta point this out, and maybe because I'm petty and frugal, but the album is affordable compared to what I've seen. You know, like the prices of vinyl has been skyrocketing for me.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
You know, I wanted to buy the new Meshuggah album, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll wait till they come on tour, and I'll buy it from them direct, because it's like $40, $50, $60.
Oh my God! Well, no, this is more reasonable.
Yeah,
$20, man. Look, I own a label for 15 years. I have records that are on sale on my site for $12, $15. I know what it costs to make a record. I get there's some crazy shit happening in the world right now with vinyl, and I get that it's a difficult time for musicians in general to kind of sort of make up for the fact that they haven't been on the road and this and that. But I also think charging an exorbitant amount of money for something that I know costs what it costs, you know, I think is a little, it's kind of, look, if you want it that bad, you're going to spend the money, you know?
Sure.
But I also think at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's not a good look, in my opinion. I think, keep it affordable. But I'm, once again, I'm me. Meshuggah's Meshuggah. They'll sell out, but whatever the hell they charge for their vinyl, they will sell it. And it's not to say that they don't have a good reason why they're doing it. Who knows? But
sure.
I get what you're saying, Eddie. It's fucking insane. It's insane.
It's crazy. Look, I collect records and I support bands and I love Meshuggah, but look, it stopped me from pre-ordering it.
Sure.
And me, I was like, you know what? They're coming. I have tickets to when they come to LA. I'll just buy it from the merch booth. You know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a deterrent, and if you have your reasons, you have your reasons, and that's fine. But good Lord.
I hear you. I think what they're banking on is the fact that there are enough people out there that have expendable income that will spend the money just because they know that they can resell it on Discogs. You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing. Like, a lot of people are buying and just reselling and charging a lot because vinyl pressings are selling out. I mean, it's crazy what's happening with vinyl right now, man. Like 10 years ago, you could press the record and it was like, yeah, whatever, man, just put it out. Eventually it'll sell. You put out a record now and you have any kind of name, it's going to move. It's going to move. You know what I mean? So, and when it does and it sells out, people that buy this stuff and resell it, that's what they want to do, man. They just want to keep it moving.
And it's everywhere. That reseller culture is in every aspect. It's in beer, it's in records, it's in shirts and sneakers. Like, I just don't I don't get it, and I hate it.
Right. Yeah.
I got into Turnstile with their newest album, Glow On, and I was like, oh, you know what? This album's great. I'm going to go buy the vinyl. I'm like, oh, it's sold out. And I look up online, it's $1,000. I'm like, no.
Oh, my God.
There's no way. There's no band that good.
It's $1,000 to buy a vinyl fucking record. It's insane. That is insane.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
But anyway, I appreciate the pricing. I appreciate you coming on the show and spending some time with me, man. And hopefully, like I said, we can catch you here in the West Coast and we can high five and hug our broken, accident-prone bodies at one point.
I'd love to do that, man. I'm actually going to be out in LA in May, in mid-May, but I'm going out there for like social reasons. I'm going to a wedding. So
cool.
I'm going to be around, so maybe I will see you. If I'm not, I have the wedding, and then the day before I have some stuff to do, and then I have a day off. So maybe we will be able to meet up. Yeah,
hit me up. I'm running a show out of the Comedy Store in Hollywood now too, so I can take you there if you want to watch a show or something. So it should be a good time.
Cool, man. Let's stay in touch. Let's try to do it.
All right, man. Well, cheers, everybody. Make sure you pick up the album, or go at the very least, go watch the video for the new song that's available now on YouTube. And thanks again, dude.
Eddie, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right, man.